Raxaul lies in the Indian state of Bihar, right on the Nepalese border. Bihar is one of the poorest states in India. The per capita income is about $115, and among its biggest problems are poor healthcare and lack of education. But there have been great steps forward in education recently. 10 years ago, only 60% of men and 33% of women were literate, and now these figures have changed to 73% for men and 53% for women. At least these are the official statistics. According to the hospital managers, the actual literacy rate is somewhat lower. People in the area mainly live from services of various kinds, trading and, to a large extent, agriculture. When we asked our friends working in the hospital why the state was so underdeveloped, everybody cited the incompetent and extremely corrupt local government. It is a view supported by the 2005 report of the world's largest anti-corruption organization, Transparency International, which found that Bihar is India's most corrupt state. The organization measured corruption against 11 scales, and Bihar came out most corrupt in every department. The state has now set the fight against corruption as its #1 objective. Before my wife came here in 2010, we looked through many travel guides for information about Raxaul. We found little that was encouraging. The basic message was that Raxaul is a filthy, repellent dump, and spending as much as one night there is to be avoided if at all possible. If for some reason you absolutely have to stay in the area, then go to sleep in Burganj on the other side of the Nepalese border. Travel guides are of course given to dramatic exaggeration, but I have to say that in Raxaul's case, the description is quite accurate. With the best will in the world, the town is anything but attractive. Nevertheless, the people of the town are almost without exception extremely kind. Day after day I went through its streets and to the neighbouring villages and was very warmly received almost everywhere. People made no objection when I asked if I could take their photograph. In fact, they usually asked me to take a picture of them and their families. The hospital was founded in 1930 by a Scotsman called Duncan and named after him. However unbelievable it sounds, the hospital's catchment area includes 6 million Indians and 5 million Nepalese, so that it potentially has to provide care to 11 million people. Much of its buildings are old and in need of refurbishment, but fortunately, a new building, the Mackay Block, opened this year. Although it is a missionary hospital, it does not provide care free. There are exceptions for people who are clearly so poor they could not possibly pay for life-saving treatment, and the hospital dips into money set aside for charitable purposes. Relatives wait in the hospital courtyard or waiting rooms while the family member is being treated, sometimes for several days. When evening falls, the waiting relatives spread out their blankets in the hospital courtyard, the better off putting up their mosquito nets, and they lie down to sleep. About 6,000 children are born in the maternity ward each year. Most cases have complications because the patients are severely neglected. They often only come into hospital when a local health centre is unable to help them. Only 15% of pregnant women receive pregnancy care. Stillbirth is an everyday event, most often due to hypoxia during birth. Most births at the hospital are supervised by midwives. The more experienced midwives are capable of using vacuum and dealing with breech presentations. It's left to doctors to make decisions, carrying out cesarean births, treat major birth wounds and use forceps. The birth complex is a 30-bed ward, effectively a single room. There are 10 beds for mothers in labour, and these are separated from each other by curtains. The other 20 beds contain pregnant women who've been admitted because of some kind of pathological condition or are just about to give birth. Upon admission, if it's not been done already, women are routinely tested for HIV and hepatitis B and C. The maternity complex also has a separate supervision room with 5 beds for treating eclampsia patients and those in critical condition. For infants, there is an infant warmer, suction equipment and oxygen. There are also, of course, facilities for resuscitating and intubation of infants. Working very closely with the maternity ward is the baby and neonatal ward, where infants in critical condition and premature babies are sent. They have facilities for mechanical ventilation and phototherapy. The hospital really has all of the equipment necessary, but in insufficient quantities. It is not unusual for the relatives to have to provide artificial respiration until a mechanical ventilator is freed up. The Duncan Hospital has a separate department to support community development projects. This means that the hospital supports various community initiatives in some 250 surrounding villages. These are mainly education, small business support and healthcare projects. The educational projects supplement rather than replace ordinary schools, and adult education is particularly important. There are villages in the Raxaul area where almost none of the adult women can read or write, and one of the hospital's prime initiatives is to address the illiteracy that obstructs every kind of development. Another typical kind of initiative is the setting up and supporting of savings groups. This is where the women of a village set up a group and every member undertakes to save 50 rupees, or about $1 a month, for the use of the community. Women are mainly able to save from their pay for agricultural labour in the fields. The group keeps the money in a joint bank account until there is enough to start a small enterprise. This could be buying goats to raise and sell, opening a shop, buying a sewing machine, or anything else that can provide income. The hospital helps by sending a worker every week to the savings group to collect the money, arrange for opening and paying in of the contributions, and give advice on using the savings. This is a village pregnancy clinic run by the Duncan Hospital. Nurses from the hospital, assisted by local helpers, carry out basic tests once a week on the pregnant women in the village and provide them with vitamins and painkillers.